yeah, I don't really see how Noctie can deal with that. Knight f4, I guess. King e3, knight takes g2. I guess there's some king f3. Knight h4, there's king g4. But then I have knight g6. My knight does escape. Hello everyone, my name is Emil Stefanov, International Master, and in this video I will walk you through weekly scenario number 12 in Noctie. And as always, make sure to practice the position for yourself. Link is in the description. Let's get started. I have the great privilege of presenting this weekly scenario, as this position comes from my course in Noctie on how to win winning positions. This actually happened in one of my over-the-board games, and I was very happy when I reached this position and I knew I was about to win a pawn. From there, I knew I was most likely going to be able to convert that into an actual win. Now, let's try to discuss what's going on with this position and see the pluses in my position. So, pawns are equal, and both sides have 3 pawns on the king side and 3 pawns on the queen side. However, my pawns are a little bit more advanced on the queen side, especially the a4 pawn, putting some extra pressure. And most importantly, the difference between the minor pieces is I have a bishop and the opponent has a knight. So my bishop is more powerful as it can play on both sides of the board. And as we can see, it's currently putting a lot of pressure on the a2 pawn, which the knight on c1 is currently stuck to defending. The knight on g3 is, if you think about it as well, is also not that amazing. If the knight can go to e4, which it can, afterwards it doesn't really have amazing squares. As you can see, all the squares are being controlled by my pawns. So really the knight on g3 doesn't have great prospects either. So all we have to do now is calculate a very precise line, which during the game, thankfully I was able to calculate it very precisely. Knight c4 is the first move. We attack the pawn on b2 and we force b3. I think what my opponent might have missed is that when he plays knight d3, or b3 for that matter, I do have the move knight e3, which attacks the pawn on g2, but also it will attack it with a check. And that's the reason why knight e3 is so powerful. After king f2 defends the g2 pawn, but then we have knight d3 check, and we're going to capture the pawn on c3. So now we're up an extra pawn, and now our task is to win this in the most precise way, right? We managed to win material. Now we're gonna have to do our best not to give out much counterplay to the opponent. So we're gonna start with knight d5, where knight is being attacked. Going to b5 doesn't make as much sense. Going to d5 makes good sense to me because we are attacking the f4 pawn. And Noctie plays f5, but yeah, this pawn could be very weak now, right? Bishop d7. We are still putting pressure on this pawn. And also with bishop d7, we were able to defend our pawn or attack the pawn on a4. Although I was never really worried, even if Noctie had taken. Of course, we have knight takes f4. But again, I was never really worried about this because it would just be 2 double pawns on the a file. So here, we don't have to rush taking the pawn on a4. In fact, we might play knight f4 and just go ahead and pick up the pawn on g2, which, yeah, I don't really see how Noctie can deal with that. Knight f4, I guess. King e3, knight takes g2. I guess there's some king f3. Knight h4, there's king g4. But then I have knight g6. My knight does escape, I think. I feel like my knight escapes. Yeah, there's some king f2, but knight h4 again. And there's some king f3, but knight h4 again. So yeah, I think we're pretty settled. So knight f4 again. We're just looking for the extra pawn on this side of the board. Now in specific, I think we are going to take this pawn because after a5, ba5, knight a5, white will have a passed pawn of their own. So I don't think there's anything wrong with taking. We can always take there, and our knight always escapes. So bishop a4, there you go. Great move. We got to make sure that we don't blunder anything now. This is a pretty interesting spot. So I think it is time to simplify. When we're up material, simplifications are always good. So we could probably take a takes b3 and then go knight takes h4. Knight takes g2, sorry. If king f2, then knight f4. If king f3, then we could potentially escape through e1 and then c2. So we will be escaping. And if bishop b3, king f4, then we win another pawn, and that will be simply winning. Noctie says this is a mistake. Probably just wanted me to take because my bishop was way stronger than the knight on b3, which it is true, but I don't see a reason not to do this simply because I am up the 2 extra pawns. Okay, maybe I should have paid a little more attention to what Noctie was trying to do, but knight c2 and knight b4, I seem to be just in time, so I don't think there's an issue. Knight b4, there you go. Just stop king c6. Just stop king c6. Don't allow that. Let's not allow that. And now the big question is, how do we proceed? Yeah. Of course, we probably need to get the king into the game. So let me go ahead and do that. King f8, king e7. That'll be good. Knight h5. Okay, Noctie's being a little annoying. I can't not really put my king to e7 because the g7 pawn's hanging. So this is probably where we utilize our knight. Yeah, knight c6. It's a good move. Just give a check, and then we have knight e7 check. It looks a little awkward, I know, but basically we're able to kind of get rid of the king there. I always have g6. Ooh, I have a tactic. There you go. I have a tactic that wins. There you go. Knight takes f5. Pretty simple tactic. If king f5, then g6. There was a check. And again, more simplifications. I would have the outside pass pawn. And now there's absolutely no counterplay, right? There's no f5 pawn. I don't have to worry about anything that Noctie tries to create. I can always just go back and I'm winning. And that's what I'll do. Actually just, yeah, I mean, I could go back to e7. I could go back to d6. Anything is really possible here. Just let's not blunder. That's the only thing. Let's just not blunder. So f5, king f7, and slowly but surely, king f7. Slowly but surely, we will include our king in the attack. Yeah, I mean b4. That's fine. I can always just continue with king f6. Okay, yeah, Noctie is being, as always, a very resourceful defender. My pawn there could be hanging, so let me go back. Let me force knight f4 back, and we're okay with knight. If no knight f4, then g5. This is definitely really good because now the knight is kind of locked. Ooh, this I don't like because f4, and thank you very much. The knight on the rim is dim, as the saying goes, and there we have it. We win the extra knight. And the rest of the game should be pretty smooth. We just need to promote, and we could just win. So. And knight b4. I know it looks like the king has no squares, so it's stalemate. But in fact, there is one extra move that Noctie could do. And that's all we need to checkmate. Let's go back in the starting position and just review once more what the best move was. As mentioned, the very first move was knight c4, and we really go into a forced sequence of moves, where after knight c4, b3, knight e3, we're attacking the pawn on g2, and now Noctie has the decision. Does it basically say, okay, I don't care about protecting this pawn, and I take the pawn on a4, or does it go for king f2, protecting it? But in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to go knight d1, pick up the pawn on c3. It really depends. Noctie chooses f5, which I think this happened to me in one of the other tries that I was playing against Noctie here. And it kind of shocked me because I wasn't expecting such a brute force of a solution to be a possibility. As always, playing against Noctie will shock you a lot. But essentially, I think we still managed to win the extra pawn. I'm going to take it with knight f5. Maybe it's not the best, but that's okay. I see a way in which we can always return our pawn. So we always have the ability to go bishop d7 and just pick up our pawn on a4. And once again, we have the bishop versus the knight. So we always know that our bishop is going to be more powerful than the knight. Of course, don't give up the pawn. And then after knight c5, we probably play bishop c6. And as you can see, again, the bishop is a more dominating piece. Now, what you're going to need to do if you ever get to this position is bring your king and be watchful for the knight forks. But once again, the first move should be knight c4 due to this beautiful ability to attack b2 and attack with knight e3. And from there, once you win an extra pawn, you just have to be careful not to allow any counterplay and convert your winning position. Good luck!